What if your eating disorder is not about food at all, but about a soul starving for the feminine you rejected to be perfect? Hello. Good evening. Or maybe it's already late at night where you are. Welcome to the Stillpoint. If you're new here, thank you for finding us. And if you subscribed, you're part of a quiet community now. People who think, who question, who seek. Sometimes I wonder about the lives on the other side of this screen. The cities, the small towns, the different corners of the world where you might be listening. The stories that brought you here. If you ever feel moved, the comments section is there. A quiet place to leave a thought, a moment, a trace of where you are. This is your refuge. For the next hour, the noise stops. The scrolling ends. You don't have to do anything. Just be here. You're safe. Let's begin. There is a tyranny more subtle than any dictator. A tyranny that lives inside. That speaks with your own voice. That uses your own hands to wage war against your own body. This is the tyranny of perfection. The addiction to an ideal that can never be reached. The pursuit of a flawlessness that does not exist in human form. And the body becomes the battlefield. The place where this impossible demand is enacted. Where control must be absolute. Where hunger must be denied. Where weakness must be eliminated. Where the flesh itself becomes the enemy. This is not the pursuit of excellence. Is not the healthy desire to grow and develop. This is something else entirely. This is addiction to perfection. And it is killing the soul. Marion Woodman, Jungian analyst and pioneer of body-centered psychotherapy, named this pattern after decades of working with women whose lives had become prisons of their own making. Women who achieved everything the culture demanded. Who were thin, successful, disciplined, admired. Who controlled their bodies with iron will. Who never ate too much or slept too long or wanted too openly. Who were perfect on the outside and dying on the inside. She called them the still unravished brides. The women who remain virgins not in body but in soul. Who have never been touched by life. Never been penetrated by experience. Never allowed themselves to be vulnerable, messy, imperfect, human. They stand at the altar of perfection, waiting for permission to live. Permission that never comes. Because perfection demands everything and gives nothing. Demands the sacrifice of the body, the emotions, the instincts, the desires. Demands that you become something other than human. Demands that you reject the feminine entirely. The war against the body begins early. Begins when the young girl learns that her body is not acceptable as it is. That it must be controlled, shaped, disciplined into something else. Something smaller. Something neater. Something that takes up less space. She learns that hunger is not a signal to be honored but an enemy to be fought. That appetite is dangerous. That wanting is shameful. That the body's needs are inconvenient interruptions to the real business of being good, being perfect, being acceptable. She learns to override the body's wisdom. To eat when she is not hungry because it is mealtime. To not eat when she is hungry because she has already had enough calories. To exercise past exhaustion because she must burn off what she consumed. To ignore fatigue, pain, the body's desperate signals that something is wrong. She learns that the mind must rule the body absolutely. That consciousness must dominate nature. that spirit must transcend flesh. This is presented as virtue, as discipline, as strength of character. The girl who can control her appetite is praised. The woman who maintains perfect weight is admired. The one who never gives into cravings is held up as a model. Culture calls this self-control, calls it willpower, calls it taking care of yourself. But Marion Woodman saw through this language, saw that what culture calls control is actually violence. What it calls discipline is actually warfare. What it calls perfection is actually self-destruction. Because the body is not meant to be controlled like a machine, is not meant to be disciplined into submission, is not an enemy to be conquered but a home to be inhabited, is not gross matter to be transcended but the temple of the soul. And the war against the body is ultimately a war against the soul itself. The addiction to perfection has many faces. Eating disorders are the most visible. Anorexia, where control becomes absolute and the body is starved into disappearance. Bulimia, where control and chaos cycle endlessly, binging and purging, consuming and rejecting. Compulsive overeating, where food becomes the only comfort in a life devoid of other nourishment. But Woodman understood that eating disorders are not really about food, are not about weight or body image in any simple sense, are about the soul's starvation, are about the attempt to control the uncontrollable, are about rejecting the feminine, the bodily, the instinctual, everything that is wild and cannot be tamed. The woman with anorexia is not trying to be thin, is trying to be pure, is trying to transcend the body entirely, to become spirit without flesh, to escape the messiness of being human, to achieve a perfection that has nothing to do with physical appearance and everything to do with escaping embodiment itself. And culture supports this, glorifies thinness as if it were a moral achievement, praises women who have conquered their appetites, sells products that promise control, discipline, the ability to overcome your own nature. The language is revealing. Overcome, conquer, battle, fight, master. All the language of war, all aimed at the body, at hunger, at desire, at the self. You are simultaneously the warrior and the enemy, the one who must control and the one who must be controlled. And so you split, divide yourself into mind and body, spirit and flesh, good and bad, acceptable and shameful, and wage war against yourself, a war you can never win, because the body will not be denied forever, because nature will not be transcended, because the soul cannot live in a body that is treated as an enemy. The perfectionist believes that if she can just achieve perfect control, perfect thinness, perfect discipline, then she will finally be acceptable, will finally be loved, will finally be enough. This is the addiction, not to food or to thinness or even to control itself, but to the belief that perfection will bring what you long for. That if you can just be good enough, disciplined enough, perfect enough, then you will finally be worthy, finally deserve love, belonging, acceptance, finally be allowed to exist without shame. But perfection is a moving target, is never enough. There is always more weight to lose, more control to achieve, more discipline to demonstrate. The perfectionist is on a treadmill that has no end, running faster and faster toward a destination that recedes with every step. And the cost is everything. Is the body broken down? Is the soul starved? is life itself unlived. Woodman traced this addiction to the rejection of the feminine. In patriarchal culture, the feminine is associated with the body, with nature, with instinct, with the uncontrollable. The masculine is associated with mind, with culture, with reason, with control. And the masculine is valued while the feminine is scorned. To be feminine is to be less than, is to be weak, emotional, irrational, ruled by appetite and instinct rather than reason and will. And so women, to gain any value in this culture, must reject the feminine, must identify with the masculine, must control the body, deny the emotions, override the instincts, must become like men, or more accurately, must become like the cultural ideal of masculinity, rational, controlled, disciplined, unemotional. The addiction to perfection is the extreme version of this rejection, is the attempt to eliminate the feminine entirely, to become pure mind without messy body, pure spirit without chaotic nature, pure control without unruly desire. But what is rejected does not disappear, goes into the shadow, goes into the body. The woman who has controlled her appetite for years suddenly binges uncontrollably. The one who has maintained perfect discipline suddenly cannot stop eating. The emotions that were suppressed erupt in rage or depression or anxiety. The body that was ignored breaks down in illness. What is denied will demand to be acknowledged. What is rejected will return. And often it returns in distorted form. In symptoms, in addictions, in compulsions, in the very loss of control that was so feared. The addiction to perfection creates what it most fears, creates chaos out of the demand for absolute order, creates illness out of the attempt to be perfectly healthy, creates death out of the pursuit of an impossible ideal. The still unravished bride is Woodman's central image. She takes it from Keats, from the Ode on a Grecian Urn. The bride who remains forever virgin, forever waiting, forever perfect and untouched, forever frozen in potential but never actual, never consummated, never penetrated by life, never allowing herself to be touched, changed, made messy by experience. She stands in her white dress, pure, perfect, untouched, and completely alone, completely cut off from life. She is the woman addicted to perfection, who cannot risk the messiness of relationship, cannot risk the vulnerability of intimacy, cannot risk the loss of control that comes with being truly known, cannot risk being seen in her imperfection. And so she remains virgin, remains untouched, remains perfect, and remains utterly isolated, utterly starved, utterly dying inside her perfection. This is not about being literally virginal in the sexual sense. It is about the soul remaining virgin, remaining untouched by life, remaining in potential rather than actuality. The perfectionist lives in the realm of the ideal. In her mind, she is perfect. In her imagination, she has perfect control. In her plans, everything goes exactly as it should. But life is not ideal. It is messy, unpredictable, uncontrollable, requires compromise, adaptation, acceptance of limitation, requires being imperfect, being vulnerable, being human. And the perfectionist cannot tolerate this, cannot come down from the realm of the ideal into the realm of the actual, cannot allow herself to be touched by the messiness of embodied life. And so she remains virgin, remains bride waiting for consummation that never comes, remains potential that is never actualized, remains perfect and untouched and utterly unfulfilled. The body knows. The body always knows. Knows that something is deeply wrong. Knows that it is being treated as an enemy. Knows that it is starving not just for food but for life itself. And the body speaks. Speaks in symptoms, in illness, in breakdown. The body that has been controlled too rigidly rebels, develops chronic illness, chronic pain, mysterious symptoms that doctors cannot explain. The body that has been starved refuses to function, shuts down systems, refuses to menstruate, to digest, to sleep. The body that has been at war cannot maintain the war forever. Eventually it collapses. And this collapse, Woodman understood, is not failure, is the body's wisdom, is the soul demanding to be heard, is the forced interruption of the addiction to perfection, is the beginning of the possibility of healing. But the perfectionist does not understand this, experiences the body's breakdown as betrayal, as weakness, as proof that she has not been disciplined enough, that she needs more control, not less, that she has failed, and so she may double down, may become more rigid, more controlled, more perfectionistic, may take the illness itself and make it another thing to perfect, to manage perfectly, to control absolutely, may turn healing into another performance, another test she must pass with perfection. This is the nature of addiction. It does not respond to failure by changing course. It responds by doing more of what is not working. More control when control is the problem. More discipline when discipline is the disease. More perfection when perfection is what is killing the soul. What the perfectionist does not understand is that she is searching in the wrong place. She believes that if she can just achieve the perfect body, the perfect control, the perfect discipline, then she will find what she longs for. Will find peace, fulfillment, worthiness, love. But what she longs for cannot be found in perfection, can only be found in embracing imperfection, can only be found in accepting the body, the emotions, the instincts, the desires, can only be found in allowing herself to be touched by life, to be vulnerable, to be messy, to be human, to be, in other words, feminine, to reclaim what has been rejected, to come home to the body, to honor the soul that lives not in the ideal but in the actual, not in perfection but in embodied, imperfect, glorious human life. This first stage is recognition, is naming the tyranny, is seeing that what culture calls virtue may actually be violence, that what you have been calling discipline may actually be warfare, that the pursuit of perfection is not making you better but is destroying you, is destroying your body, your soul, your capacity for life. This recognition is painful, is the acknowledgement that you have been at war with yourself, that you have treated your own body as an enemy, that you have starved your own soul in the pursuit of an impossible ideal. But this recognition is also the beginning of freedom, is the first crack in the prison of perfection, is the possibility that there might be another way, that you do not have to be perfect to be worthy, that you do not have to control everything to be acceptable, that you can be imperfect, embodied, human, and still deserve to exist. Rest now with this recognition. Rest knowing that if you have been at war with your body, you are not alone. that this is the pattern of our culture, that countless women have internalized the message that the body is an enemy, that appetite is dangerous, that perfection is the only acceptable state. But rest also knowing that this tyranny can be named, can be seen for what it is, that the addiction to perfection is not your fault but is a cultural disease, that you have been trying to survive in a culture that hates the feminine, hates the body, hates the very nature of embodied human life, and that seeing this clearly is the first step toward freedom, toward reclaiming your body, toward coming home to yourself, toward allowing yourself to be touched by life. The still unravished bride can become the woman who says yes to life, who allows herself to be penetrated by experience, who embraces imperfection as the price of being human, who is no longer virgin but bride, no longer ideal but actual, no longer perfect but whole. The rejection of the body is not just a rejection of flesh, it is a rejection of the feminine itself, of everything the feminine represents in the deep psyche. The body, yes, but also the mother, the earth, the instincts, the emotions, the cycles, the darkness, the chaos, the uncontrollable. In patriarchal culture, these are devalued, are seen as less than the masculine qualities of mind, reason, order, control. And the woman who wants to be valued, who wants to succeed, who wants to be taken seriously, learns to reject the feminine, learns to distance herself from the mother, from the body, from the very ground of her being. This rejection is not conscious, is not chosen, is survival, is the only way to gain value in a culture that despises what she is. But the cost is enormous, is the loss of soul, the loss of connection to the deep feminine wisdom that lives in body, in instinct, in the dark knowing that cannot be rationalized or controlled. Marion Woodman understood that the mother is the first carrier of the feminine, is the one who introduces the daughter to what it means to be female in this culture. And if the culture devalues the feminine, then the mother becomes the carrier of that devaluation. The daughter looks at her mother and sees powerlessness, sees limitation, sees someone who sacrificed herself, who made herself small, who accepted less. And the daughter says no, says I will not be like her, will not be weak like her, will not be trapped like her, will not accept the feminine fate. And so she rejects the mother, turns away from her, identifies instead with the father, with the masculine, with everything the mother is not. This rejection is necessary for psychological development. The daughter must separate from the mother to become her own person. But in patriarchal culture, this necessary separation becomes something else. Becomes a rejection not just of the personal mother but of the feminine itself. Becomes a turning away from the body, from instinct, from the deep feminine ground. But the mother is not just the personal mother, is also the archetypal mother. The great mother, the one who gives life and takes it away, the one who nourishes and devours, the one who holds and releases. And in the psyche of the woman addicted to perfection, the mother appears in her negative forms, as the devouring mother who will not let the daughter grow, who keeps her dependent, infantile, unable to separate, or as the perfect mother who demands perfection from the daughter, who cannot tolerate mess or failure or imperfection, who loves conditionally only when the daughter meets impossible standards, or as the absent mother who is not there emotionally, who cannot provide the mirroring, the holding, the unconditional acceptance the daughter needs. These negative mother experiences create a wound, create a sense that the feminine is dangerous. That mother love is either suffocating or withholding. That to be feminine is to be trapped or abandoned or never good enough. And so the daughter develops what you can call the mother complex, an unconscious pattern where the mother, both personal and archetypal, dominates the psyche. In the positive mother complex, the daughter cannot separate, remains merged with mother, remains dependent, cannot develop her own identity. But in the negative mother complex, which is more common in women with addiction to perfection, the daughter rejects the mother entirely, rejects everything feminine, identifies with the masculine, becomes what Woodman called the armored Amazon, the woman who has no softness, no receptivity, no vulnerability, who is all will in control and achievement, who has cut herself off from the feminine ground entirely. This gives her power in a patriarchal world, gives her the ability to compete, to succeed, to be taken seriously. But it also cuts her off from her own depths, from her own soul, from the very source of her being. The body carries the mother, carries the feminine heritage, carries the instincts, the cycles, the deep knowing that has been passed down through generations of women. And when the daughter rejects the mother, she also rejects the body. Rejects menstruation as inconvenient, shameful, a sign of weakness. Rejects pregnancy and childbirth as limitations on her freedom. Rejects the body's softness, its curves, its capacity to nurture. Wants instead to be hard, angular, controlled. Wants a body that does not betray her femininity, that does not mark her as female, that does not remind her of the mother she has rejected. The eating disorder is often the most extreme expression of this rejection. The anorexic body that refuses to menstruate, refuses to develop breasts or hips, refuses to become a woman's body. The body that tries to remain prepubescent, to avoid the feminine fate, to escape being like mother. But the body will not be denied. The feminine will not be rejected forever. What is pushed into the unconscious does not disappear. It goes into the shadow, and from the shadow it exerts its power. The woman who has rejected the feminine finds herself haunted by it, haunted by dreams of the dark mother, of being chased, devoured, overwhelmed, haunted by symptoms in the body, by the very eating disorder that expresses both the rejection of the feminine and its return, by depression that pulls her down into the darkness she has been trying to escape, by anxiety that signals the war between conscious control and unconscious chaos. The rejected feminine returns, demands to be acknowledged, demands to be integrated. And if it is not acknowledged consciously, it will manifest unconsciously, in symptoms, in illness, in the breakdown that forces attention. Woodman saw that beneath the addiction to perfection is a profound hunger. Not hunger for food, hunger for soul, hunger for the feminine nourishment that has been rejected. The woman with an eating disorder is starving, but she is not starving for calories. She is starving for mother love, for the unconditional acceptance she never received, for the holding, the mirroring, the sense of being enough just as she is. She is starving for connection to her own feminine ground, to her own body, to her own instincts and emotions and deep knowing. She is starving for soul, and she tries to fill this hunger with control. with perfection, with achievement, with thinness. But none of these can satisfy soul hunger. None of these can provide what the soul actually needs, which is not perfection but acceptance, not control but surrender, not achievement but being, not thinness but embodiment, not rejection of the feminine but embrace of it. The soul speaks through the body. This is what Woodman understood that many therapists did not. The eating disorder is not just a behavioral problem to be corrected, is not just distorted thinking to be challenged. Is the soul speaking? Is the soul saying, I am starving. I need nourishment. I need the feminine. I need the mother. I need to come home to the body. The symptoms are not the problem, are the attempted solution, are the psyche's way of trying to get attention, of trying to force the woman to stop, to descend, to face what has been rejected, to reclaim what has been lost. And so the therapeutic work is not about eliminating symptoms, is about listening to them, about understanding what the soul is trying to say through the body, about honoring the wisdom of the symptom even as you work to transform it. The mother wound must be healed. This is essential. The woman cannot reclaim the feminine without healing her relationship to the mother. This does not mean the personal mother must change. Often the personal mother cannot change, is limited by her own wounds, her own mother complex, her own internalization of patriarchal devaluation of the feminine. The healing happens internally, happens in the daughter's psyche, happens when she can see the mother not as the enemy but as another woman wounded by patriarchy, when she can have compassion for the mother's limitations, when she can grieve what the mother could not give because the mother did not have it to give, when she can separate the personal mother from the archetypal mother, can see that her hunger is not just for this particular mother but for the great mother, for the archetypal feminine that holds, nourishes, accepts unconditionally. And she must learn to mother herself, to give herself what the mother could not give, to provide the unconditional acceptance, the holding, the nourishment, to become the good mother to herself. This is not narcissism, is not self-indulgence, is the essential work of reclaiming the feminine, is learning to care for the body as the mother cares for the child, to feed it when it is hungry, to rest it when it is tired, to comfort it when it is in pain, to accept it in all its imperfection, to love it not for what it achieves but for what it is. This is revolutionary for the woman addicted to perfection, who has spent her life treating the body as enemy, who has denied it, punished it, tried to control it into submission, to instead treat it with tenderness, with care, with the unconditional love of the good mother. This is the beginning of healing. The feminine is not weak. This is what must be understood. The rejection of the feminine is based on a lie, on the patriarchal devaluation that says feminine equals weak, inferior, less than. But the true feminine is not weak, is powerful, is the power of the earth, of nature, of the body, of instinct, of the cycles of birth and death and rebirth, of the darkness that holds the seeds of new life, of the chaos that has actually created potential, of the receptivity that is not passivity but active allowing, of the vulnerability that is not weakness but courage. The feminine that has been rejected is not the weak, limited, powerless feminine of patriarchal definition, is the deep feminine, the wild feminine, the dark feminine, the feminine that is connected to soul, to body, to earth, to the great cycles of life. To reclaim the feminine is not to become traditionally feminine, is not to embrace domesticity or passivity or any of the cultural stereotypes, is to reclaim the deep feminine qualities that live in the psyche and the body, the capacity to feel deeply, to trust instinct, to honor the body's wisdom, to move with cycles rather than against them, to value being as much as doing, to allow receptivity alongside action, to embrace the darkness as well as the light, to accept imperfection as part of being human, to be connected to the earth, to nature, to the body, to the instinctual ground of being. This is what has been rejected. This is what must be reclaimed, not to replace the masculine but to balance it, not to reject achievement but to ground it in being, not to abandon control but to balance it with surrender, not to eliminate discipline but to temper it with compassion. The woman addicted to perfection has been living in her head, living in the realm of ideas, of ideals, of should and must and have to. She has lost connection to the body, to the instincts, to the emotions, to the deep knowing that comes not from thinking but from feeling, from sensing, from the somatic wisdom that the body carries. She must descend from the head into the body, must come down from the realm of the ideal into the realm of the actual, must learn to feel again, to sense, to trust the body's signals, to honor the emotions as information rather than as weakness, to listen to the instincts that have been overridden for so long. This descent is terrifying, is the loss of control, is the surrender to what cannot be managed or perfected, but it is also the path to soul, to wholeness, to life itself. The rejected feminine is calling, is demanding to be acknowledged, is refusing to remain in the shadow any longer. And the call comes through the body, through the symptoms, through the eating disorder that will not be controlled, through the depression that pulls down into darkness, through the anxiety that signals the war between conscious and unconscious, through the dreams of the dark mother, through the longing for something that cannot be named, through the sense that something essential is missing. This call is not comfortable, is not convenient, is disruptive, demands that the woman stop achieving, stop controlling, stop perfecting, stop running, and descend into the body, into the darkness, into the rejected feminine, into the mother wound, into the soul hunger. This is the only way forward, the only way to healing, the only way to wholeness. Rest now with this understanding. Rest knowing that the rejection of the feminine is not your personal failure but a cultural pattern. That the mother wound is not about your particular mother but about the archetypal feminine in patriarchal culture. That the hunger you feel is soul hunger, is the longing for the feminine nourishment that has been rejected. That the symptoms are not enemies but messengers, are the soul speaking through the body, demanding to be heard, demanding that you stop and listen, demanding that you reclaim what has been lost. The feminine is not weak, is powerful, is the ground of your being, is the source of your deepest wisdom, is calling you home, home to your body, home to your instincts, home to your emotions, home to your soul. The journey continues, the descent beckons. and the rejected feminine waits to be reclaimed. The system collapses. The perfect control that held everything together fails. The body that was disciplined into submission rebels. The mind that managed everything loses its grip. The eating disorder that was the solution becomes the crisis. The achievement that provided identity crumbles. The perfection that promised safety reveals itself as prison. And the woman falls into darkness, into chaos, into the very thing she has been trying to avoid her entire life. This is breakdown. This is the moment when the addiction to perfection can no longer be sustained, when the war against the body and soul can no longer be won, when something must give. And what gives is the false self, the constructed identity, the perfect persona. It all falls away, and what remains is raw, is vulnerable, is terrified, is the woman without her armor, without her control, without her perfection, naked before the dark goddess. Marion Woodman understood that breakdown is not failure, is not the end, is the beginning, is the soul's forceful intervention when all gentle attempts to get attention have been ignored. The symptoms were whispers. The eating disorder was a cry. The depression was a plea. But the perfectionist did not listen, could not listen, was too busy controlling, achieving, perfecting. And so the soul had to shout, had to create a crisis so profound that it could not be ignored, had to bring the whole system crashing down. This is not punishment, is not the body or psyche attacking you, is the soul's desperate attempt to save you, to force you to stop, to force you to descend, to force you to face what has been rejected, to force transformation, because gentle transformation was not possible, because you would not choose it. And so the dark goddess comes, not to destroy but to initiate, not to punish but to transform, through breakdown to breakthrough. The dark goddess has many faces. Kali, the Hindu goddess of destruction and creation, standing on corpses, tongue out, wearing a necklace of skulls, destroying what must be destroyed so that new life can emerge. Hecate, the Greek goddess of the crossroads, of magic, of the underworld, the crone who knows the mysteries of death and rebirth. The Black Madonna, the dark mother who holds suffering, who embraces what has been rejected, who transforms through descent into darkness. These are not the sweet, nurturing mother goddesses, are not the beautiful, perfect, gentle feminine, are the dark feminine, the fierce feminine, the feminine that destroys as well as creates, that takes away as well as gives, that demands surrender to forces beyond control, that initiates through crisis, through suffering, through the death of the false self. And the woman addicted to perfection meets this dark goddess in her breakdown, in her eating disorder crisis, in her depression, in her body's collapse, in the dark night of the soul when everything falls apart. The breakdown often comes through the body. The body that has been starved finally shuts down, refuses to function. The heart rhythm becomes irregular. The bones become brittle. The organs begin to fail. The anorexic body reaches a crisis point where hospitalization is necessary, where death becomes a real possibility. Or the bulimic body rebels against the constant purging. The esophagus tears. The teeth decay. The electrolytes become dangerously imbalanced. Or the compulsively eating body develops diabetes, heart disease, chronic pain that can no longer be ignored. The body says, I can do this no more. I will not be treated as enemy any longer. I will force you to pay attention. This is terrifying. Is the loss of control that was most feared? Is the body taking over, demanding care, refusing to be overridden? But it is also the body's wisdom. The body knowing that the only way to save the soul is to force a crisis. Or the breakdown comes through the psyche. Depression so profound that getting out of bed becomes impossible. That work, achievement, all the activities that provided identity become unreachable. The perfectionist finds herself unable to perform, unable to maintain the perfect facade, unable to keep achieving, keep controlling, keep being perfect. And this feels like death, like the end of the world. Because without achievement, without perfection, who is she? What is her worth? What is her reason to exist? The depression strips away the false identity, forces her to confront the emptiness beneath all the achievement, the void that perfection was meant to fill but never could. And in this stripping away, in this forced confrontation with emptiness, there is the possibility of finding what is real, what is authentic, what is her true self beneath the constructed perfection. The dark goddess strips away everything inessential. This is her gift and her terror. She takes the false self and destroys it, takes the perfect persona and shatters it, takes the achievement-based identity and reveals it as hollow, takes the control and shows it as illusion. She strips the woman down to nothing, down to raw vulnerability, down to the truth that was hidden beneath all the perfection. And this truth is painful, is the recognition of how much life has been unlived, how much has been sacrificed to the addiction to perfection, how much the body has been betrayed, how much the soul has been starved, how much is broken, how much needs to heal. The dark goddess forces this recognition, demands that it be felt fully, allows no more hiding, no more pretending, no more performing, only raw truth, only naked vulnerability, only the woman without her armor facing herself. In this darkness, the woman meets her shadow, meets all that has been rejected, denied, pushed down, refused. The anger that was never allowed because anger is not perfect. The grief that was suppressed because sadness is weakness. The fear that was denied because fear is not acceptable. The desire that was rejected because wanting is shameful. The chaos that was controlled because disorder is failure. The imperfection that was hidden because anything less than perfect is worthless. All of it rises now, demands to be acknowledged, demands to be felt. And the woman who has spent her life in control, in perfection, in the light of consciousness, must descend into the shadow, must face the darkness within, must acknowledge what she has been running from. This is terrifying, is the confrontation with everything she has defined herself against. But it is also liberating, because what is in shadow has power over you. What is acknowledged can be integrated. The descent to the dark goddess is a death, is the death of the false self, the death of the perfect persona, the death of the identity based on achievement and control. This is why it feels like dying, because something is dying. The woman you thought you were, the woman you tried to be, the woman who was never real, was always constructed, was always performing. She must die, must be let go, must be surrendered to the dark goddess who destroys what is false so that what is true can emerge. This is the initiation. This is the transformation that cannot happen any other way. You cannot gently evolve from false self to true self. Cannot slowly adjust from perfection to wholeness. The false must die, must be destroyed, must be torn down completely before the true can be built. And this dying is agony, is grief, is loss. Even though what is dying was never truly you, it was what you knew, was what felt safe, was what gave you identity in the world. And letting it go feels like annihilation. But Marion Woodman saw that this death is not the end, is the necessary passage to rebirth. The dark goddess is not only destroyer but also birther. Kali creates as well as destroys. The Black Madonna births new life from darkness. Hecate guides through the underworld to the other side. The breakdown is the breaking open. The crisis is the chrysalis. The death is the passage to new life. But this cannot be known in the midst of it. In the midst of breakdown, it feels only like ending, like destruction, like loss. The woman in crisis cannot see that this is transformation, cannot trust that something new will emerge, can only feel the pain of letting go, can only experience the terror of descent, can only know that everything she built is collapsing, and she must go through it, must surrender to it, must allow the dark goddess to do her work. The addiction to perfection tries to maintain control even in breakdown, tries to perfect the crisis. The woman in hospital for anorexia tries to be the perfect patient. The woman in therapy tries to be the perfect client. The woman in depression tries to manage it perfectly, to have the right insights, to heal according to schedule. But the dark goddess will not be controlled, will not allow perfection even in breakdown. Demands surrender, demands that the woman stop trying to manage, to control, to perfect. Demands that she simply be in the chaos, be in the not knowing, be in the mess and confusion and pain without trying to fix it or understand it or make it neat. This is perhaps the hardest thing, to be in crisis without trying to control the crisis, to be broken without trying to immediately fix the brokenness, to simply allow the breakdown to break you open, to trust the process even when you cannot see where it is going. In the darkness, support becomes essential. The woman cannot do this alone, cannot face the dark goddess alone, cannot survive the breakdown alone. She needs witnesses, needs others who have been through this descent and returned, needs therapists who understand that breakdown is not failure but initiation, who will not try to fix her or rush her or make her feel better prematurely, who will sit with her in the darkness and trust the process. She needs community, needs other women who understand eating disorders not as problems to be solved but as soul journeys to be honored, who will not judge or advise but simply be present. She needs the holding that she never received from mother, the unconditional acceptance that allows her to be broken, to be imperfect, to be in crisis, and still be acceptable. This holding is sacred, is the human representation of the dark goddess's fierce love, the love that destroys what is false but holds what is true. The dark goddess teaches through the body, through the symptoms that will not be ignored, through the pain that demands attention, through the illness that forces rest, through the breakdown that requires surrender. Woodman understood that the body is where the dark goddess speaks most clearly, where the soul's messages are most direct, The eating disorder is not random, is not just about food or weight, is the precise symptom needed to get this particular woman's attention, is the soul's chosen language. And so the work is not to eliminate the symptom, but to understand it. To ask, what is my soul trying to tell me through this? What am I hungry for that food cannot satisfy? What am I trying to control that is actually uncontrollable? What am I trying to perfect that needs instead to be accepted? What am I trying to transcend that needs instead to be embodied? The answers come not from thinking, but from feeling. Not from analyzing, but from descending into the body and listening to what it knows. The breakdown reveals what was always true but hidden. That perfection is impossible. That control is illusion. That the body cannot be transcended. That the soul cannot be ignored. That what is rejected will return. That the feminine cannot be eliminated. That the mother wound must be healed. That the shadow must be faced. That vulnerability is not weakness. That surrender is not defeat. That dying to the false self is necessary for birth of the true self. All of this was always true, but the perfectionist could not see it, could not accept it, had to keep trying to perfect, to control, to transcend, until the dark goddess intervened, until breakdown forced the recognition, until the system collapsed and there was nothing left but truth. Raw, painful, liberating truth. And in this truth, in this darkness, in this surrender to the dark goddess, something begins to shift. Not immediately, not according to schedule, not in the way that can be controlled or predicted, but slowly, gradually, in the organic time of the soul, something new begins to emerge. A different relationship to the body, a different sense of self, a different understanding of what it means to be alive. Not perfect but real, not controlled but authentic, not transcendent but embodied, not false but true. This is what the dark goddess was destroying for. This is what the breakdown was breaking open for. This is the breakthrough that comes only through breakdown. This is the rebirth that requires death. This is the initiation that the dark goddess offers. And it is terrible. And it is sacred. And it is the only way home to soul. Rest now in the darkness. Rest knowing that if you are in breakdown, you are not broken. You are being broken open. The dark goddess is not punishing you, is initiating you, is destroying what is false so that what is true can emerge. The eating disorder is not your enemy. Is your soul speaking? The depression is not failure. Is dissent necessary for transformation? The body's collapse is not betrayal. Is wisdom forcing you to stop, to listen, to surrender? You do not need to manage this perfectly. Do not need to understand it all. Do not need to fix yourself. Need only to surrender, to allow the breakdown, to trust the dark goddess, to let the false self die, to wait in the darkness for what will be born. The breakdown is breakthrough. The crisis is chrysalis. The death is passage. And the dark goddess, fierce and terrible and loving, is guiding you through. You are not alone in the darkness. You are held. You are seen. You are being transformed. Trust the process. Trust the pain. Trust the dark goddess. Rebirth is coming. From the darkness, something new emerges. Not the old perfection. Not the controlled, disciplined, armored self. but something softer, something more real, something that breathes. The woman who has been broken open by the dark goddess begins to discover a different way of being, a way that does not require perfection, that does not demand control, that does not wage war against the body. She begins to listen to the body she has been ignoring, to the instincts she has been overriding, to the wisdom that lives not in the mind but in the flesh. This is Sophia, not the abstract wisdom of philosophy, but embodied wisdom. Sophia who lives in the body, who speaks through sensation and instinct and the deep knowing that comes from being fully present in flesh. This is the wisdom the perfectionist rejected. This is what must now be reclaimed. Marion Woodman understood that Sophia is the divine feminine wisdom, is the aspect of the sacred that is not transcendent but immanent, not above the body but within it, not beyond matter but expressed through matter. In the Christian mystical tradition, Sophia is the feminine face of God, the wisdom that was present at creation, that delights in the world, that is embodied, sensual, connected to earth and flesh and the material realm. She is not the distant, abstract God of pure spirit, is the God who touches, who tastes, who feels, who knows through the body. And she has been rejected by patriarchal religion just as the feminine has been rejected by patriarchal culture, has been pushed aside in favor of the transcendent masculine God who is pure spirit, pure mind, beyond the contamination of flesh. But Sophia remains, waits to be rediscovered, waits in the body, in the instincts, in the deep feminine knowing that the perfectionist has been running from. The reclaiming of body wisdom begins with simple presence, with learning to be in the body rather than above it. The perfectionist has lived in her head, has experienced herself as a mind controlling a body, as consciousness dominating nature, as spirit transcending flesh. She has been disembodied, has observed her body from outside, has treated it as object rather than as home, and now she must learn to inhabit, to descend from the head into the body, to feel from the inside rather than observe from the outside. This is not easy, requires practice, requires patience, requires the willingness to feel what has been avoided, to sense what has been numbed, to be present to sensations that may be uncomfortable, unfamiliar, even frightening. But this is the path. This is how Sophia is found. Through embodiment, through presence, through the courage to be fully in the flesh. She learns to listen to hunger, real hunger, not the hunger that must be controlled or the hunger that must be satisfied immediately, but the body's actual signal that it needs nourishment. This is revolutionary for the woman with an eating disorder, who has spent years overriding hunger, eating when not hungry because it is mealtime, not eating when hungry because she has had enough calories, using hunger as something to conquer rather than as information to honor. Now she must learn to wait for hunger, to notice it, to respect it, to feed the body when it asks to be fed, not according to rules or schedules or calorie counts, but according to the body's own wisdom. This requires trust, requires believing that the body knows what it needs, that hunger is not the enemy but the guide, that the body, when listened to, will ask for what nourishes it. She learns to listen to fatigue, to the body's need for rest. The perfectionist has pushed through exhaustion, has used caffeine and willpower to override the body's signals. has treated rest as weakness, as laziness, as something to be minimized, has believed that productivity is more important than restoration, that doing is more valuable than being, and her body has paid the price, has been depleted, has been running on empty, has been crying out for rest that was never given. Now she must learn to honor fatigue, to rest when tired, to sleep when the body asks for sleep, to stop when the body says stop, not to push through, not to override, but to listen and respond. This is Sophia's wisdom, the wisdom that knows rest is not weakness but necessity, that the body has rhythms that must be honored, that restoration is as essential as activity. She learns to listen to pain, not to push through it or ignore it or medicate it away immediately, but to ask, what is this pain telling me? What does my body need? What is wrong that needs attention? Pain is information, is the body's way of saying something is not right. Something needs to change. Something needs care. The perfectionist has treated pain as inconvenience, as something to be managed so that she can keep performing. But pain is not the enemy, is the messenger. And when the messenger is ignored, the message gets louder. The pain intensifies, becomes chronic, becomes the crisis that forces attention. Sophia teaches that pain must be listened to, must be honored, must be responded to with care and compassion rather than with control and override. The body has its own intelligence. This is what Woodman understood that Western culture has forgotten. The body is not a machine to be programmed, is not dumb matter to be controlled by the superior mind, has its own wisdom, its own knowing, its own intelligence that is different from but equal to the intelligence of the mind. The body knows when it needs food, rest, movement, touch, pleasure, knows what is safe and what is dangerous, knows what nourishes and what depletes. This knowing is not rational, cannot be explained or justified, is instinctual, is somatic, is the deep wisdom of the organism that has evolved over millions of years to survive and thrive. And the perfectionist, in her identification with mind and rejection of body, has cut herself off from this intelligence, has lost access to the body's wisdom, must now learn to trust it again. Embodiment requires feeling, requires allowing emotions to be felt in the body. The perfectionist has been cut off from emotions, has lived in her head where emotions can be analyzed, controlled, managed. But emotions are not meant to be controlled, or meant to be felt, or meant to move through the body. This is what the word emotion means. Energy in motion. And when emotions are not allowed to move, they become stuck, become trapped in the body, become the tension, the pain, the illness that the body carries. Sophia teaches that emotions must be felt, must be allowed to move. Sadness must be cried. Anger must be expressed. Fear must be acknowledged. Joy must be celebrated, not controlled, not managed, not made rational, but felt fully in the body. This is terrifying for the perfectionist. Is the loss of control she has most feared, but it is also liberation, is the release of what has been trapped, is the return to aliveness. The body is the temple of the soul. This is ancient wisdom, is found in many spiritual traditions, but patriarchal culture has inverted it. has made the body the prison of the soul, has taught that the soul must escape the body to be free, that the body is gross, sinful, shameful, that spirituality requires transcendence of the flesh. But this is a lie, is the rejection of the feminine, is the devaluation of matter, of earth, of the body. Sophia teaches the opposite, teaches that the body is sacred, is the place where the soul lives, is the temple where the divine is experienced, not through transcendence but through embodiment, not by escaping the body but by fully inhabiting it, not by rejecting the senses but by honoring them as the doorways to the sacred. This is the wisdom the perfectionist must reclaim, that her body is not her enemy, is her home, is the sacred vessel of her soul. Woodman worked with the body directly, used movement, dance, breath, touch, used body-centered practices to help women reconnect with the wisdom they had rejected. Because you cannot think your way back into the body, cannot analyze your way to embodiment, must feel, must move, must breathe, must allow the body to speak in its own language, the language of sensation, of movement, of breath, of gesture, of the wordless knowing that comes from being fully present in flesh. This is Sophia's language, is how she communicates, not through words or concepts or rational thought, but through the body's own expression, through the dance, through the breath, through the tears, through the laughter, through the full range of embodied experience that the perfectionist has been denying herself. The reclaiming of the body is also the reclaiming of pleasure, of sensuality, of the capacity to enjoy being in a body. The perfectionist has treated the body as instrument, as tool for achievement, has used it but not enjoyed it, has controlled it but not celebrated it, has denied pleasure as indulgence, as weakness, as something that interferes with discipline and control. But pleasure is not the enemy of discipline, is the body's way of saying yes, of saying this is good, this nourishes me, this brings me alive. Sophia delights in pleasure, in the taste of good food, in the warmth of sun on skin, in the touch of another, in the movement of dance, in the beauty of the world experienced through the senses. This is not hedonism, is not indulgence, is the sacred celebration of being embodied, is the honoring of the body as the place where life is experienced, where joy is felt, where the divine is known through sensation. She must learn to trust the body's cycles, the menstrual cycle if she still has it, the daily rhythms of energy and rest, the seasonal rhythms of activity and dormancy. The body does not operate on the linear time of productivity, does not maintain constant output, has rhythms, has cycles, has times of high energy and times of low energy, times of outward focus and times of inward focus, times of doing and times of being. The perfectionist has tried to override these cycles, has tried to be constantly productive, constantly achieving, constantly performing, and this has exhausted her, has depleted her, has gone against the body's natural wisdom. Sophia teaches that cycles must be honored, that there is a time for everything, that rest is as necessary as activity, that the fallow time is when the seeds germinate, that the inward time is when the soul is nourished, that the body's rhythms are not inconveniences but wisdom. The healing of the relationship with food is central. Food is not the enemy, is not something to be controlled or feared or used as weapon against the self. Is nourishment, is pleasure, is connection to the earth, is the way the body receives what it needs to live. Sophia teaches that eating is sacred, is the taking in of the earth's gifts, is the honoring of the body's needs, is the celebration of being alive and embodied. The woman recovering from an eating disorder must learn to eat again, not according to rules or diets or calorie counts, but according to the body's wisdom. Must learn to enjoy food, to taste it, to savor it, to be present to the experience of eating rather than dissociated from it. Must learn that food is not the problem, that the eating disorder was never really about food, was about control, about the rejection of the feminine, about the soul's starvation, and that healing comes not from more control but from surrender, from trusting the body, from allowing Sophia to guide. The body becomes the teacher, becomes the guide back to soul, becomes the place where Sophia speaks most clearly, and the woman learns to consult the body, to ask it what it needs, to listen to its responses, to trust its wisdom. When making decisions, she learns to notice how her body responds. Does it tense or relax? Does it contract or expand? Does it feel heavy or light? The body knows before the mind knows what is right and what is wrong for this particular person in this particular moment. This is not about being ruled by the body. It is about partnership. It is about the mind and body working together. The mind providing structure and direction. The body providing wisdom and grounding. This is the integration. This is the balance. This is what Sophia teaches, that we are not minds controlling bodies, are embodied beings, our body and mind and soul integrated, are whole. The reclaiming of body wisdom is also the reclaiming of instinct, of the deep knowing that is not rational, that cannot be explained, that simply knows. The perfectionist has overridden instinct, has trusted only what can be rationalized, what can be explained, what makes logical sense. But instinct is older than reason, is deeper than logic, is the wisdom of the body that knows without knowing how it knows who is safe and who is dangerous, knows what is nourishing and what is toxic, knows when to move forward and when to wait. This knowing has been called intuition, has been dismissed as irrational, as feminine, as unreliable. But Sophia teaches that instinct is wisdom, is the body's intelligence, is to be trusted, is to be honored, is to be consulted alongside reason, not dismissed in favor of it. And she learns that she is not separate from nature, is not above it or beyond it, is part of it, is earth, is animal, is body. The perfectionist has tried to transcend nature, to rise above the animal body, to be pure spirit, pure mind. But this is impossible, is the denial of what we are. We are nature. Our earth are the same stuff as trees and rivers and animals, are not separate from the natural world but part of it. And when we honor the body, we honor our connection to earth. When we listen to the body's wisdom, we listen to the wisdom of nature. When we trust the body's rhythms, we trust the rhythms of the natural world. Sophia is the wisdom of the earth, is the divine feminine that is not transcendent but immanent, not above nature but within it. And to reclaim Sophia is to reclaim our place in the natural world, to come home to the earth, to the body, to the embodied, instinctual, sensual, sacred life that is our birthright. Rest now in the body. Rest knowing that the body is not your enemy, is your home, is the temple of your soul, that the wisdom you seek is not in your head but in your flesh. That Sophia waits in the body, in the sensations, in the instincts, in the deep knowing that comes from being fully present in embodied life. You do not need to transcend the body, need to inhabit it, do not need to control it, need to listen to it, do not need to perfect it, need to honor it. The body knows what it needs, knows what nourishes and what depletes, knows when to rest and when to move, knows pleasure and pain and the full range of embodied experience. Trust the body, trust Sophia, trust the wisdom that lives in your flesh. You are not a mind controlling a body, are an embodied soul, our body and mind and spirit integrated, are whole. Welcome home to your body. Welcome home to Sophia. Welcome home to yourself. The still unravished bride can finally step down from the altar, can finally say yes to life, can finally allow herself to be touched, penetrated, changed by experience. This is the sacred marriage, not the marriage to an external partner, though that may also happen, but the internal marriage, the hieros gamos, the union of opposites within the psyche, the integration of masculine and feminine, of mind and body, of control and surrender, of perfection and imperfection, of the ideal and the actual. This is what the entire journey has been moving toward. This is the wholeness that was sought through perfection but can only be found through integration. This is the bride who is no longer virgin, who has been touched by life, who has descended to the dark goddess and returned transformed, who has reclaimed the body and its wisdom, who is ready now to live, not perfectly, but fully, not ideally, but actually, not as potential, but as embodied reality. Marion Woodman understood that the sacred marriage is the goal of individuation, is what Jung called the union of opposites, the reconciliation of what has been split. In patriarchal culture, the opposites have been violently separated. Masculine and feminine, mind and body, spirit and matter, light and dark, good and bad. And we have been taught to identify with one side and reject the other, to be masculine and reject the feminine, to be mind and reject the body, to be spirit and reject matter, to be light and reject darkness, to be good and reject the bad. This splitting creates the war within, creates the perfectionist who is at war with her own body, her own emotions, her own shadow, her own feminine nature. The sacred marriage heals this split, brings the opposites back together, not by eliminating one in favor of the other, but by integrating both, by honoring both, by allowing both to exist in dynamic tension and creative balance. The marriage of masculine and feminine within is not about becoming androgynous, is not about eliminating gender or becoming neutral. is about integrating the masculine and feminine principles that exist in every psyche regardless of biological sex. The masculine principle is associated with consciousness, with doing, with action, with structure, with boundaries, with a sword that cuts and discriminates. The feminine principle is associated with the unconscious, with being, with receptivity, with flow, with connection, with the vessel that holds and contains. Both are necessary. Both are valuable. Both are essential to wholeness. The woman addicted to perfection has over-identified with the masculine, has developed the masculine capacities of achievement, control, discipline, focus, but has rejected the feminine capacities of receptivity, surrender, flow, connection. The sacred marriage requires that she reclaim the feminine without abandoning the masculine, that she integrate both, that she become whole. She must heal the wounded masculine within. This is crucial. The masculine she has identified with is not healthy masculine, is the patriarchal masculine, the masculine that dominates rather than directs, that controls rather than structures, that is rigid rather than strong, that cannot feel, cannot connect, cannot be vulnerable. This wounded masculine has been her tyrant, has been the voice that demanded perfection, that waged war against the body, that rejected the feminine. She must distinguish between this wounded masculine and the healthy masculine, must develop the healthy masculine that can provide structure without rigidity, direction without domination, strength that can hold vulnerability, focus that does not exclude connection. This healthy masculine is not the enemy of the feminine, is the partner, is the yang to the yin, is the container that allows the feminine flow to have form and expression in the world. And she must fully embrace the feminine she has reclaimed, not just tolerate it, not just allow it space, but celebrate it, honor it, recognize it as equally valuable to the masculine. The feminine is not weak, is not inferior, is not something to be transcended, is powerful, is the source of life, is the ground of being, is the body, the instincts, the emotions, the intuition, the connection to soul and earth and the deep rhythms of existence. The feminine is Sophia, is the dark goddess, is the mother, is the body's wisdom, is everything that has been rejected and must now be embraced, not as a concession, not as something to be managed or controlled by the masculine, but as equal partner, as the other half of wholeness, as the bride who brings her own gifts to the marriage. The sacred marriage happens in the body. This is essential to understand. Is not an abstract psychological concept, is not something that happens only in the mind, happens in the flesh, in the lived experience of being embodied. The woman who has reclaimed her body, who has learned to listen to its wisdom, who has made peace with its needs and rhythms and cycles, is living the sacred marriage, is integrating masculine consciousness with feminine embodiment, is bringing spirit into matter, is allowing the soul to be fully present in flesh. This is what it means to be ravished by life, to be penetrated by experience, to allow yourself to be touched, changed, transformed by the actual living of life rather than remaining in the realm of the ideal, the potential, the perfect but unlived. She learns to live in paradox, to hold opposites without needing to resolve them, to be both strong and vulnerable, both independent and connected, both achieving and being, both disciplined and spontaneous, both structured and flowing. The perfectionist could not tolerate paradox, needed everything to be clear, defined, controlled, needed to be one thing or the other, perfect or worthless, controlled or chaotic, good or bad. But life is paradox, is both and rather than either or, is the constant dance between opposites, and the sacred marriage is the capacity to live in this dance, to move fluidly between masculine and feminine, to call forth what is needed in each moment, to be directive when direction is needed, to be receptive when receptivity is called for, to act when action is appropriate, to wait when waiting is wise. This fluidity, this capacity to be multiple, this is wholeness. The relationship to achievement changes. Achievement does not disappear. The woman who has integrated masculine and feminine can still achieve, can still set goals, work toward them, accomplish things in the world. But achievement is no longer the source of worth, is no longer the proof of value, is no longer the desperate attempt to fill the void, is instead the natural expression of the integrated self, is what flows from wholeness rather than what is pursued to create wholeness. She achieves not to prove she is worthy, but because she has gifts to offer, not to escape the body, but to express what the body and soul together create, not to be perfect, but to be generative, not from emptiness, but from fullness. This is the difference. This is what the sacred marriage makes possible. Achievement that serves life rather than achievement that denies life. She learns to receive as well as give. The perfectionist could only give, could only do, could only achieve, could not receive, could not allow herself to be helped, supported, nurtured, could not be vulnerable enough to need, could not trust enough to accept. But the sacred marriage requires receptivity, requires the capacity to receive, to be filled, to allow others to give to you, to accept help, to acknowledge need, to be vulnerable. This is not weakness. Is the feminine capacity that balances the masculine capacity to give. Is the vessel that can be filled. Is the openness that allows nourishment to enter. Without receptivity, there is only depletion, only giving until there is nothing left, only the exhaustion of the perfectionist who cannot stop doing long enough to receive what she needs to continue. The sacred marriage transforms relationship. The woman who was the still unravished bride, who could not risk intimacy, who could not allow herself to be truly known, who kept everyone at a distance with her perfection, can now enter into real relationship, can be vulnerable, can be imperfect, can be seen in her humanity rather than in her performance, can allow herself to need, to want, to desire, can risk the messiness of connection, can tolerate the loss of control that comes with truly letting someone in. This is what it means to be bride rather than virgin, to be consummated, to be in union, not just with another person, though that becomes possible, but with life itself, with experience, with the world. To be in relationship rather than in isolation, to be connected rather than separate, to be touched rather than untouched. She discovers that imperfection is not failure, is humanity, is the price of being alive, is what makes her real rather than ideal. The perfectionist believed that any imperfection made her worthless, that she had to be perfect to be acceptable, that anything less than perfect was failure. But this is the lie. This is what kept her imprisoned. The truth is that imperfection is what makes us human, is what makes us relatable, is what allows connection, is what creates compassion. The woman who has integrated her imperfection, who has accepted her limitations, who has made peace with being human rather than perfect, is free, is no longer driven by the impossible demand, is no longer at war with herself, can be gentle with herself, can have compassion for herself, can accept herself as she is rather than as she should be. The body becomes home, not enemy, not prison, not something to be transcended or controlled or perfected, but home, the place where she lives, the place where her soul resides, the place where life is experienced. She inhabits her body now, lives in it rather than above it, feels from the inside rather than observes from the outside, honors its needs, respects its wisdom, celebrates its capacity for pleasure and sensation and aliveness. The war is over. The body is no longer the battlefield, is the sacred ground, is the temple, is the place where the sacred marriage is lived, where masculine and feminine unite, where spirit and matter come together, where the soul is embodied. This is what Woodman meant by the body as the temple of the soul. Not a metaphor, but the lived reality of the woman who has come home to her flesh. She learns to trust the process, to trust that life has its own wisdom, that there is an organic unfolding that cannot be controlled or perfected, that the soul has its own timing. That transformation happens in the dark, in the waiting, in the not knowing. The perfectionist needed to control the process, needed to know the outcome, needed to manage every step. But the sacred marriage requires surrender to the process, requires trust that the soul knows what it is doing, that the body knows what it needs, that the psyche has its own intelligence, that the dark goddess, Sophia, the deep feminine wisdom, is guiding even when you cannot see where you are going. This trust is not passivity, is active surrender, is the feminine capacity to allow, to receive, to trust the organic process of growth and transformation. The sacred marriage is not a destination, is not something achieved once and maintained forever, is a practice, is the daily, moment-by-moment choice to honor both masculine and feminine, to integrate rather than split, to be whole rather than perfect. Some days the masculine will be stronger, will need to be, will be called forth to provide structure, direction, action. Other days the feminine will be stronger, will need to be, will be called forth to provide receptivity, flow, connection. This is the dance. This is the marriage. Not static balance but dynamic movement. Not fixed state but fluid process. Not perfection but wholeness. Not ideal but actual. Not virgin but bride. Not potential but lived reality. She becomes the woman who can hold others, who can witness others' journeys without trying to fix them, who can be present to suffering without needing to make it go away, who can celebrate others' wholeness without needing them to be perfect. She becomes the good mother, not just to herself, but to others, to the next generation, to the women who are still at war with their bodies, still addicted to perfection, still standing at the altar waiting for permission to live. She can be the witness, the guide, the one who says, you do not have to be perfect. You can be human. You can be imperfect and still be worthy. You can come down from the altar. You can say yes to life. You can be bride. You can be ravished by experience. You can live. This is her gift. This is what the sacred marriage makes possible. Not just her own wholeness, but the capacity to midwife wholeness in others. And she understands now that the addiction to perfection was never really about perfection. It was about the longing for wholeness, for integration, for the sacred marriage. But she was looking in the wrong place. Was trying to achieve through perfection what can only be found through integration. Was trying to reach through control what can only be reached through surrender. Was trying to become through doing what can only be discovered through being. The perfection was the symptom. The sacred marriage is the cure. Not cure in the sense of eliminating all problems, but cure in the sense of becoming whole, of integrating what was split, of healing what was wounded, of coming home to herself, to her body, to her soul, to life itself. Rest now in this wholeness. Rest knowing that you do not have to be perfect, that you can be human, that you can be imperfect and still be worthy, that you can be both masculine and feminine, both strong and vulnerable, both achieving and being, that you can come down from the altar of perfection, can say yes to life, can allow yourself to be touched, changed, transformed by experience, can be bride rather than virgin, can be ravished by life, can live not in the realm of the ideal but in the realm of the actual, not in potential but in embodied reality. The sacred marriage is yours. The integration is possible. The wholeness is your birthright. You are not half, are not split, are not at war with yourself, are whole, are integrated, are the sacred marriage of masculine and feminine, of mind and body, of spirit and matter, of perfection and imperfection, of the ideal and the actual. Welcome home to yourself. Welcome home to your body. Welcome home to wholeness. The bride has said yes. The marriage is consummated. And life, messy and imperfect and glorious, is finally fully lived. The journey is complete. You've traveled far tonight. Through shadows, through light, through depths most never see. Your mind has done its work. You can rest now. This is the Stillpoint, your anchor in the sea of thought, a place you can always return to whenever the world becomes too loud. Thank you for listening. Thank you for trusting this space, for trusting yourself. Sleep well. Good night.